Okay, we are going to try this again. I'm at home now recording in our homeschooling room because that's what we're going to talk about today. So, welcome all homeschool moms and moms of any kids that just need a place to do homework. We're going to talk about the tips to creating a more welcoming homeschool and homework space. And the summertime is the best time to look at these spaces because they're not in use all the time. And so we have a chance to step back and really assess how these are working for our families and how we can make them feel more welcoming in our home for not only our kids, but also as people come to our home. It's a place for other kids to maybe engage in a different way in our home. So we're going to take a look today at how do we create a more welcoming homeschool or homework area in our homes. I'm Becky Bunnell, owner of Luca Haven Design, which is a purpose-driven interior design company in Grand Rapids in West Michigan. And we love to create spaces with intention, mission, and connection. And I'm just so excited to have the chance to get on here. I know this afternoon didn't quite work in between my meetings, but I am so thankful that I'm able to do this, and I truly appreciate you coming back and taking the time to view this video. So let's dive right in. The first place we start is the same place we always start every room, is that empathy exercise. Start asking yourself and your kids, what do you want out of this space? How do you want it to feel? How does it already make you feel? Are you able to do the activities that you want to do in this space? When we have guests come over with kids, how do we want them to interact with the space? How do we want them to feel in the space? And as I said, this can go for both the homeschool room and even the homework area for our kids. And it's taking that time to ask these questions that help us decide or help us uncover our guiding star, our intention statement for the room, and how we want the room to feel. And that's what guides us as we're implementing some of these tips. So what are those tips for the homeschool? We have been homeschooling for about 2 years now, so we're fairly new at it. But even after the first year, we came away with a lot of changes that we could make to our own space at home. And we are the typical homeschooler that kind of homeschools everywhere in our home. But I am a huge proponent of always having a space in the home that is the culmination of our homework or our homeschool stuff, if you will. You can do it throughout the home, but making sure that you have a room or a space where you can have all the things you need for homeschooling. And so my first tip is to create those systems and what it looks like for you. Like I said, we homeschool on the couch. We homeschool outside. We homeschool at the island, at the dining room table. It all depends on what works for our kids and what we're learning at that time. So what was important for us, and my first tip, is to create the system that works for you. And for us, that was making sure that we had a wheeled storage unit for all our curriculum, like books and objects that we needed. And so that way I can wheel it around or take the drawers out and move them around the house for wherever we're doing homeschool that day. If you have a schedule, even a loose one, making sure it's posted for the kids to see. If your kids are younger, making it more color-coded with pictures as far as the rhythm of your day so that they can have expectations. Another system is, I know for us, we tend to gather things. We want the kids to learn so many things. So I'm constantly, hey, I'm going to purchase this over here, or I'm going to bring in this activity, and we start to accumulate a lot of stuff because we want our kids to be able to experience it all. And my tip for that is create a system where you're looking at all the stuff you've accumulated throughout each quarter and then assessing, is this something that we will actually do, or can I put it away for now in a separate spot so it's not taking up clutter and cluttering up our room. It's not taking up that space. It's not taking up a place in our mind quite yet, but it's stored away safely in a location. If I ever do want to grab it out, I can. The example I like to use for this is we have monthly bins, and in each monthly bin, not only are there toys for our toy rotation, but there are themed activities as well. I love to theme things. I love to dive into a subject with the kids. And so I put things in this bin. And if the bin is full, I really take note of that and assess, what can I get rid of? What can I, start to declutter? And I have that system in place of looking at that quarterly so that we don't get too much stuff in our homeschool room or our bins, because if we have too much stuff, we're never going to do anything really well. So that's another system we use. And then if it is a thing, have a toddler system. For us, homeschooling or even trying to do homework the first couple years was hard. We have she's 2.5 now. So when she was 1, she was into everything. So having a place where she can get into where we're doing our homeschooling. So I have like a drawer system here, and we made sure to put things she could get into on the lower drawers so she could freely get into those, explore what was inside, and keep her busy for a little bit while I worked with the older kids. So if you have little ones, making sure you have something in place to keep them busy or keep them occupied so you can have your attention on your older ones. No system is perfect, though. There will be times where you just can't get it done, and that's okay as well. Give yourself grace. As with the little ones, it is difficult. But if you can create some type of system that can give them activities and keep them busy in a meaningful way, things work out a lot better. So the first tip is, creating those systems, whatever you need. The next one is zones. I talk a lot about different zones. I've talked about it in the kitchen. I've talked about it in playrooms, and creating these zones so that you know what you need from your space. So are your kids creative? And you definitely want to nurture that, and you have a creative zone, a study zone, a reading zone. And even if you don't have a specific space for this, like reading, for instance, if your kids tend to read throughout the house and it kind of moves, we have totes that we call our book bins. And within our book bin is our favorite books and a drawing pad and crayons. And so they can travel, this zone, if you will, can travel with our kids for wherever they need it. And the same goes, since we have drawers for our curriculum, the study zone can be moved around as well, because every kid learns differently. And so it's really being inquisitive with, what do our kids need, and making sure that there is a place for them to do that somewhere in the home, and that if it's not in the homeschool space, that the zone can travel around wherever it is needed easily. But then at the end of the day, you're able to put things away into the homeschooling space so that it's marking the day is done, the homework is done, and the rest of the home is for being together as a family. Thinking about, a computer and technology zone, having them all stored in one place. Maker or theme zone. So this is where, like you can see behind me, I've set up a little one because we're studying flowers and we're really diving into botany this summer, and creating a place where they can just sit there and wonder and question. And there's different books that answer certain questions, and there's hands-on activities for them to just explore if they want to, or it's just giving a different feeling to our space depending on what we're studying. Another way to bring this about is having a whiteboard or chalkboard, and making sure it's magnetic, so that way you can put up different posters or different words or different concepts or different pictures to help just inspire exploration and learning in your space. Do not make your space cluttered with so many posters. It just really clutters the minds of your kiddos, but make it very gentle, and just giving a nod to, hey, maybe explore into this subject, wonder about this question, have it available in this zone, but don't go overboard. And then the biggest one is storage zones. So those art projects that maybe the kiddos aren't finished with quite yet, but you can't have them sitting out on the dining room table, have a place for them to be stored so that they can easily be retrieved and completed. For us, we have a drawer right behind me here that is all those art projects. So either completed ones that they want to keep around, or those that are half finished that they can easily go back into the drawer. They can reach it, they can reach their art supplies, and they can continue their project. But it has a place to be put away for the time being until we can return to it. So that is the couple of zones that we have in our home, but really assess what zones you need for your homeschool room or for your homework area. And then the second tip is a little bit of things we have already covered, is just inspire learning. So having hands-on activities or books readily available that kids can dive into and learn something or wonder or ask questions about. We love having a globe. We're constantly going to the globe, finding where we live and then where we're talking about, so they can start to understand the size of the world. Or like I said, behind me, we have, different names of plants, and we have some, I guess, like index cards of different plants so they can start diving into, well, what are the different flowers? And it's just giving nods to learning, not covering our spaces with the ABCs and the numbers and the math facts and the phonics rules. If it becomes too cluttered with learning, it becomes overwhelming for kids, and it becomes more of a pressure and a stressor for our kids. But if we can create an inspired learning space with just nods to different things, one poster here or there, and hands-on activities for them to explore, or a library of books readily available for them if they want to dive in. We're just encouraging learning, but we're not, putting so much pressure on it, because it's in the wonder, it's in the exploration that true learning actually happens, and they get excited for it. It's not so burdensome if you are requiring it at a certain time of day and making sure that it's in this specific room. But if they have a space that they know that exploration happens here, learning happens here, and it's exciting, your room becomes so much more intentional, so much more connection happens here. So the inspired learning. And the best tip I have, honestly, is to create your homeschool room or your homework station with your kids. What do they want? How can it make doing schoolwork or learning more fun? Because sometimes it is like a burden. Even in homeschooling, we do have to go. I like to do assessments to understand where my kiddos are at, and they don't always like them. But how can I create more, I don't want to necessarily call it fun, but more inspiration around it? So for one of my daughters, it's making sure that she can listen to a certain playlist while she is doing those. Or for another, it's I need all quiet time. I need to be able to take breaks and do a fun drawing just to release and have that mental break. And so it's working with your kids to understand, how can I make learning more fun for you? Because it's when we're learning and exploring that the mind grows, but you can do it in a fun way. And bringing that into your homeschooling room is the biggest tip I have. So we've gone through a few tips that are my top tips for how our homeschool room looks. So that is, right, making systems and having zones and making sure that flow can happen and understanding how the different kids learn and what the zones they need. And then making sure that we can inspire learning with what we put in our space and what we have available. And then the biggest one is always do this with your kids. This is their space. How do they want to invite their friends into it? Just work with them. But I would love to hear your tips there. If you Google homeschool rooms, there are so many ideas out there. But really just take in what works best for your kids, what works best for your rhythms in this, just making sure that you have a place for those and that it can travel around if you need it to. So I would love to read your tips though below. So please comment below, what are your top tips for your homeschool room or your homework area or activity? I would love to inspire other moms, and I'd love to hear how it works for you. And the activity, the action step out of today is assess your room. The summer, like I said, is a perfect time. You're not using it every day. So you can take that pause, take that break, clean out, declutter, and start fresh with the next school year with your kiddos helping you design a new space in your home. I would love to answer any questions that you have. If there's still one of those tips that you're not quite understanding or you just want to hear more details about, please email me. I would love to just start the conversation. And as always, if you found this helpful or inspiring, please share it on your feed. Always trying to grow the community to inspire others to develop their own Luca Havens at home. And I am excited. Tomorrow is another one of my favorite subjects. It's all about hosting when it comes to from parties to just even hosting one guest in your home, and how you can create that welcoming atmosphere during parties and just that one-on-one relationship. So join me tomorrow, 1 o'clock. I should be home, so I have internet readily available, and I'm excited to take you on the journey of how to create welcoming events and just having the normal guest over. I hope you guys all have a fantastic Friday and a beautiful weekend. I'll catch you tomorrow.